Hi guys. So this is going to be our final assignment for algebra for the year. So it's kind of exciting. On Friday when we get together in class, I just want us to fill out an end of year survey and just kind of reflect on the year and find a way to celebrate our time together. So our last lesson, we're going to learn how to do some basic data analysis using a spreadsheet, and that'll include using formulas, modifying those formulas for different kinds of parameters, and then making basic charts in a spreadsheet. This is a skill that you'll use your entire life. And if you've had a class with me before, we've probably done some work in spreadsheets. So I just want to help you dig in a little bit deeper to using spreadsheets and, discovering some things that you may not have learned already. In this, sorry, pardon my cough. Don't think it's COVID. In this completely fictional scenario, I'm imagining that I'm the coach of a gymnastics team. And it's close to the end of the season, and I want to celebrate my athletes with an end of the year banquet. Now, one of the awards that I'm going to give is Athlete of the Year. And I want to base the Athlete of the Year award strictly on the medals that they've won at their gymnastics meets. I know that there's other types of criteria that I could use, but to be completely objective about this award, we're just going to use medals. However, as I look at this spreadsheet and I see how many medals my athletes have won over the year, I can't help but feel a little torn. As you notice, Tracy, for example, has the most gold medals, so that caught my eye right away. But then there's also somebody like, Caden, who has more total medals than Tracy does, just not as many golds. And then there's somebody like Eva, who again has more total medals, and she has kind of a balance between the gold, silver, and bronze. So it really is a tough call to decide who to give Athlete of the Year to. So as their coach, I may work out a point system and say, I'm going to let a gold medal be worth 3 points, a silver medal be worth 2 points, and a bronze is 1 point. So the best medal is worth the most, and that way I can just use the point totals to figure out who the Athlete of the Year is. Well, to figure out the point totals, I could plug all these into a calculator to figure out who's the Athlete of the Year. But with a spreadsheet, you don't have to. Once your data is already arranged in rows and columns, you can use formulas to make the calculation for you. Hi, everybody. So in this last assignment of the year, we are going to do a little bit of digging into data analysis using spreadsheets. And what I've done is I've made several spreadsheets, and you'll find them each in the tabs of this spreadsheet that you'll see linked on Google Classroom. You can't see it on my screen because of the way it's cropped, but at the very bottom, look like below the spreadsheet, and you'll see 3 tabs that say Demo, Grades, and Lemonade. I'm going to teach you how to use formulas and make charts in spreadsheets using the Demo and Grades tabs, and then your assignment is to complete the tab that says Lemonade according to the instructions that I give you. But first, let's do a little bit of talking about why we use a spreadsheet and what we can do with it, why it's so powerful. I can use a spreadsheet to organize large-ish amounts of data, and then I can use formulas to automatically do calculations on big chunks of data all at once. It's kind of like typing in a computer program, but then you see all the data in front of you change dynamically as you change the parameters of the program. You'll notice there are some things that are really similar between messing with a spreadsheet and writing a computer program. So there's a lot of commonalities there. So in this completely fictional scenario that I've put in this spreadsheet, I'm a gymnastics coach, and I want to honor my gymnastics team with an end of the year banquet. These are the names of all of the people on my gymnastics squad, and then these are the number of medals that they've won at the meets over the course of the year. You can tell we attend a ton of meets, and many of my athletes have won a lot of awards. And one of the awards I would like to give out is the Athlete of the Year. Now, I have a lot of criteria that I could use for Athlete of the Year, but I'm strictly just going to use medal counts. However, I'm having a tough time deciding. So, for example, there's an athlete like Tracy who has the most gold medals by, for sure. But then there's also an athlete like, for example, Eva, who has fewer gold medals than Tracy, but more medals overall. And so trying to decide between those athletes can really be challenging. So as their coach, what I'm going to do, and just to make the math objective and clear, is I'm going to assign point values. Every gold medal will be worth 3 points, and every silver medal is worth 2 points, and every bronze medal is worth 1 point. So that way they're weighted differently, with the gold medals being worth the most. And then I'll just add up their point total, and that will help me figure out who the Athlete of the Year is. So if I were doing this just with a calculator, I would plug these values in and calculate it for every athlete, but I don't need to do that. I can use an algebraic expression and type it in as a formula. So like, for example, if I were doing this as an algebra expression, I might say 3g plus 2s plus 1b equals p for points. In a spreadsheet, that formula looks like this. You type in an equal sign to show it's a formula, and then to do 3 times, you type 3 and then an asterisk for times. And I want to use this value as the number of gold medals. So I'm not just going to type in 7 like that. I'm going to type in the cell number that the 7 is located in. So you'll see it's located in B2, so I type B2. You can also, instead of typing in B2, you can click on the cell and it fills in B2 for you. Then I'm going to add 2 times, and I'm going to use the cell C2, which I can just click on and it populates it with C2. And then I'm going to add 1 times. Remember, the times is the asterisk. And then I'm going to click on cell D2, and it fills that in there. Remember, formulas always start with an equal sign, and you fill it in as a math expression. Spreadsheets do understand order of operations, so it's going to do all of the multiplication first, and then it's going to add everything up. I'll hit enter, and it looks like Aaron has 42 points for the year. Now, the beautiful thing is I don't need to type that formula in for the rest of the kids on the team. If I simply drag this box down, so I click on the square that has the 42 and hover over this little blue square in the corner. See how my cursor turns into a plus? And then I click and drag all the way down to Tracy. It's going to use that same formula, but change it for every athlete, so it calculates across the row for every athlete. If I click on, for example, Braylon's point total, I see that it did 3 times B3, there's cell B3, plus 2 times C3, plus 1 times D3, and Braylon has 20 points. And then I can look down the list and figure out that Martine has the fewest points, and to my great surprise, it is Oscar who wins the Athlete of the Year, because Oscar's grand total of 8 gold medals, 11 silver medals, and 12 bronze medals gives him the highest point total of any of my athletes. So he's the Athlete of the Year. So that dragging down of the formulas is a super handy feature of spreadsheets. So next, I'm interested in just kind of finding out the average number of medal counts for my athletes and just doing some math on that. It might be fun to present to my parents at the end of the year banquet. I also want to know the total number of medals that everybody has won. So I'm going to add another column, another row, and I'm going to put this in row 28 and type total. Okay. So we're going to explore a few new formulas. Average, maximum, minimum. We're going to figure out how to count the number of students that got above a certain threshold. And then we're also going to figure out how to add all the numbers together. To compute an average, if I want to find out the average number of each medal category that each athlete won, like what's the average number of gold medals won by a certain athlete, that might be fun information to present at the banquet. The way I do that is I type equals and I just type in the word average. You do not need to add all the numbers up and divide by how many there are. The formula average will do that for you. We type in average, and then you hit an open parentheses, and then when you do, it shows you some tips for what you're going to put in the formula. We're just going to drag over all the cells that we're going to average. So we'll click on Tracy's gold medal total, drag up to Aaron's gold medal total, end the parentheses, you can see that changing right here, and hit enter. And so the average number of gold medals won by my athletes is 6.4 gold medals. That's a lot of gold medals. This is a very successful team. I also want to calculate the average number of silvers and bronzes, and it turns out that you can hover over that square in the corner and drag horizontally, and it will also average down these columns. And just to double check, I can click on this formula and look what it says in this text box. And I notice that this formula has changed, so it's averaging C2 through C21. There's C2 and there's C21, so it's averaging that row of silvers. And this is averaging the row of bronzes. Okay? Maximum is a formula that picks out the biggest number in a data set. And the formula for maximum is equals max, And again, you hit an open parentheses and drag over all those numbers, end the parentheses and hit enter. And then of course I'm going to drag that formula across. So the maximum number of gold medals won by anybody was 12. The maximum number of silver medals was 11, and the maximum number of bronze medals was 13. I can do the same thing for the minimum, although this isn't a super interesting data point in this data set. It's equals min, in case you hadn't inferred that. And I type equals min, open parentheses, drag over all the data, end the parentheses, and hit enter. And then, of course, I'll drag that across. That's the smallest number of medals in each category that anybody won. And then this is a fun formula. So I want to count how many students were really prolific medal winners. How many students got 6 or more medals in every category? The way I count that number automatically, other than just going through and tallying up by hand, is I'm going to use the formula COUNTIF. I type equals COUNTIF and then open parentheses. As soon as I type the open parentheses, I generally get some tips on what's expected in the formula. And in this one, I can tell it needs the range of data first, and then there's a criteria. So it's going to count all of the data values in the data set I put in. And in this example, it'll count all the values that have a value greater than 20. Well, I want to know the number of students that got 6 or more medals of this type. So I'm going to type in greater than 5, because I don't want it to show me the students getting 5 medals. I want it to show me students getting 6 or more. Greater than 5 is what I'm looking for. Equals COUNTIF. Drag over all of the values first. Then you hit a comma, since there's another parameter, comma, and I need to type in double quotes my criteria. Double quotes, greater than 5. End the double quotes, end the parentheses. Hit equals. So 13 athletes received 6 or more gold medals. And again, I drag this across, and I'm just going to double check my formula here. See how the thing in quotes stayed the same, but the range moved over to column C. So, well, I didn't mean to do that. Sometimes it's really easy to mess with the formula by accident if you just click on the wrong spot. Let's just hit enter. 9 athletes received 6 or more silver medals, and 8 athletes received 6 or more bronze medals. Lastly, we're going to do the total. Just because this will be an awesome stat to show the parents, is how many total medals we won over the course of the season. The formula to add up all the numbers in a column is the word sum, S-U-M, equals sum, open parentheses, and I can scroll up using the little mouse wheel. I'm going to drag over all of the data for the number of medals, end the parentheses, and hit enter. We won 128 gold medals total. That's amazing. We're going to drag over for the 2 other columns, and this is the number of silver and bronze medals we've won over the course of the season. So the last thing I might want to do is graph that information. So when I'm going to graph it, it would be nice to have these pieces of information labeled. I know I have the labels up here, but to make my graph nice and tidy, I'm going to repeat the labels right above the data I'm graphing. Gold, silver, bronze. Okay? And then drag over all of these cells, starting in this corner and getting this label, these labels, and all of the numbers. And we're going to do insert chart. Now, by default, the chart that it enters is a bar graph, which actually is exactly what I'm looking for. However, the labels are kind of weird. So I would like to have for the oh, there we go. It says there's a checkbox here that says use row 27 as headers. Let's click it. There we go. And now it gives me a legend showing which medal type is which bar. One other type of graph that might be useful is a pie chart. If you want to show the proportion of the total medals that was in each category, a pie chart might be interesting. And I might do a pie chart simply to show that most of the medals that we won as a team were gold medals. To do a pie chart, I got rid of the chart that was there earlier, and I'm only going to select on these rows with the 3 titles. I don't need the word total. So when I select those, I'm going to do again insert chart, and it started off with a bar chart, but I'm going to pull down the chart type and make it be pie. And I kind of don't like how it showed up here, so we're going to click this box that says switch rows and columns, and that works a little bit better. So sometimes if the graph doesn't look exactly like you expect it to, the graph might be expecting your data to be vertical when your data is horizontal or vice versa. Try experimenting with the switch rows columns checkbox just to see if that makes things work right. So now it looks pretty good. And I can see from my pie chart that well over a third of the medals I won were, or my team won, were gold, and that was pretty exciting. It even puts percent labels by each one so you can see those proportions. And the type of chart that you make just depends on what meaning you're trying to show from the graph. So play around with it until you feel like it tells the best possible story of your season. Okay, so that is the graph that shows the athlete data. In the next video, I'll show you what to do with the grades data and then give you the assignment. So stay tuned for part 2.